Well, welcome to the AIM Room. We have a very special presentation today. We have another cryptocurrency being pitched, and today we have Rishi, Kumar, and Margaret Diedrich pitching us Terra, Luna, and talking us through their thoughts. We have a guest visitor who's going to remain off camera that has some really detailed questions for them. And I look forward to hearing about whether this is a buy, sell, hold, and what the strengths and weaknesses are that you guys have discovered. So take us away, please.
Awesome. So I'll just start off by saying let Margaret take the lead here. Just talking about how we found this coin and what utility was when we first initially found it.
For sure. So back in January, we started this process of trying to find a crypto to sort of like this educational process. And just when I was looking for a crypto that would be good to pitch, I was looking at different things like coin usefulness, security, and privacy. So it was kind of funny. I was new at it, so the first few coins that I found hadn't ICO yet. Sorry. And so one I landed on was Ironfish and the other was Angle. So Ironfish used a bunch of zero proofs and was really good at privacy. Angle was a stable coin and just had a lot of coin usefulness, which we liked. So once I took that to Rishi, we started going through some of the ideas. We then landed on Terra through our process. And we liked Terra because it had the coin usefulness, the stable coin. The ecosystem had a lot of dApps, decentralized apps, which we thought were good for adoption and things like that. And then Rishi can take us through a little bit about why some of the problems we found with Terra and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. So when Margaret showed those three coins that she mentioned before, they were all really good ideas, but the issue kind of was that A, you could either couldn't buy in the United States, or B, they hadn't come out yet, so there was no coin to buy. So I kind of took her ideas. I kind of said, okay, she wants privacy, she wants payments, and she wants interoperability. What kind of coin kind of fits that kind of mold? And Terra was one of those names. It kind of stood out because A, it was based out of South Korea, meaning that it kind of got that emerging market exposure that we didn't really have from any other cryptos we pitched. And I also thought it was really cool how this had 22 stable coins and had this whole native Luna coin, which is a governance token, at the middle of it. And they were using these decentralized applications to build utility in order to increase adoption. And that was kind of something that really stood out. And we really wanted to make this work and turn into a buy. But just the more we dug into it, just the more problems we found. We found unsustainable applications like Anchor, which is their biggest DApp, where it accounts for 50% of the total value staked on the platform, but it's losing about $5.5 million a day, and we bankrupt by June 15th.
It's not a good choice.
And we just found so many issues, and then regulations started coming out where there's SEC subpoenas on some of their applications. There's a whole slew of things that's going on. It's just not really helping them out. Also, now countries are just starting to make central bank-backed digital currencies too. So there's not many tailwinds for this coin anymore. And we got to this point where we said, there's actually a very viable case here to say that we can short this coin and we could probably make a good amount of money, especially if their biggest protocol is about to go under by June 15th. And that's kind of where we landed at. But that being said, this is a really fun educational process for us. And we had a lot of fun looking at things up. A lot of late nights in the evening, for sure. Yeah. I don't know where.
Let me put on my professor hat for a moment so we can backfill and make certain that everyone in here. Stablecoins. Stablecoins have been around since 2013. When was this white paper written?
Roughly 2018.
Okay, so stablecoins have been around. Why come out with a new stablecoin?
So this stablecoin, it is pegged above like 22 fiat currencies, which is that was the adoption of it. Like the interpretability, as Rishi was saying, is kind of one of the main drivers behind it, and it's an algorithmic stablecoin, so it uses Luna to keep the peg between all the different fiat currencies.
Okay, so there's different ways to peg.
Just
algorithmic.
piggybacking off that.
Sure.
Let's think about the whole global payment system, right? Are we saying that the entire world of currencies, real currencies, are going away just because these things exist? Probably not. So Terra's whole pitch was, well, why don't we just make stablecoins back to those currencies then? And we can make a global payment system based on digital currencies. So that was kind of utility there. And that's kind of what we found where, instead of, destroying the entire system, we can just replace it with this one.
So since then, has this become popular?
It has. So this is, like I said, this is mainly mainstream in South Korea. So one of their biggest applications is the Chai Payments app. It's about 2 million users, and they use it for like peer-to-peer payments and at e-commerce. It's kind of like Square.
So how does it compare to Bitcoin in terms of how much volume can be processed at any given moment?
So I was just gonna ask.
Sorry, you can
That's
jump
okay.
in.
No.
Yep.
So it depends on how you look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's own can't really process that many transactions per second, but if you add Light Network to it, then you can get to the millions per
Is
second.
it? I've actually been meaning to research it. So Bitcoin currently is how many transactions per second?
What is it, like 14 or 10? something along
Okay,
those
and
lines?
what's Lightning proposing to do? I've got that on my bucket list to look at.
I haven't dug into it too
Okay,
much. I
fair
just
enough.
know that the whole claim is that they can get to millions of transactions per second. That's the whole
And
claim,
what does
right?
this thing do right now?
10,000.
10,000%. Okay, so
Versus Visa, MasterCard, how many do they cost?
They can go up to like 24,000 per second.
okay, so it's in that neighborhood.
Yep.
What is the market think they saw that they think they're smarter than you? This is a coin that's went from what, $1 to 100 in a
Yep.
very short period of time. What's driving that, Margaret?
Well, we would say that there's this anchor protocol. There's a lot of people driving towards that, and
What is this anchor protocol? To take it to Dave's point, like, so not everybody in the room's a crypto expert.
Right.
Help us under. So there's this coin, it can replace values. I get it. It's used a lot to pay for things in South Korea, and they have some kind of associated application called Anchor. What's the attraction to that? in
Sure.
Europe? Yeah.
I can take this one. So Anchor is basically a savings account on steroids. So they can offer you a 20% APY on your savings account. You would deposit these.
20% return.
Yeah. And this is where the problem arises. So right now, to borrow money, you're paying 13%, but Anchor incentivizes you to do so. They give you a 10% distribution back. So your interest rate is pretty much 3%. If you look at page 5 of my write-up,
So help me understand. You went pretty fast there, my friend. I get 20% on my money,
Yeah.
but I gotta pay them something.
no,
to do
the
so.
borrowers do it. The borrowers, when they get the money from the loans,
Got
they
it.
have 3% net APY.
Okay, so that's their profit.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, they still have to pay out 20%, which
They
is
do.
why you're claiming it's unsustainable.
Yep, and if you look at this graph here on page 5, you
Yep.
can see that the number of deposits is about 4.5 times bigger than the number of.
Well, it makes
Things being
sense. Everyone, who doesn't want to make 20%?
Exactly, and that's the issue. That's why you're losing 5.5 million. When I talked to you 2.5 weeks ago, it was 4.5. 2
Now
days ago, it
it's
was
increasing.
5, and now it's 5.5, and they're gonna be big by June 15th.
So in the past, they've come across the same problem.
Yes, they
What
have.
did they do to alleviate the problem?
So the first thing that's happened was on January 26th.
Yeah.
They realized that this thing would be bankrupt by the end of February.
Yep.
So by February 18th, they had given this thing $500 million worth of UST as a reserve for Anchor.
And how did they raise that?
So the whole idea, even behind the Terra ecosystem, is that they wouldn't need reserves, so because it's algorithmic stablecoin. But since its inception, since what Rishi mentioned in January, they've just started raising money. Just like their goal is to have 3 billion in Bitcoin, 10 billion overall. They're having
So
avalanche.
do they issue new Terra to get the money, or how did they get the money?
Yeah, it's a good question. So what they did was they had a new round of investors.
Nope, you're doing great.
They had so people like Jump Crypto and Galaxy Digital decided to raise a round for them. I think they raised about $1 billion.
But when they raise it, what are the people getting back, right? If I give them $1 billion, I'm getting something. What am I getting?
Well, they got Luna in return.
So they're issuing new Luna.
Yeah, correct.
How many Luna can be issued in total?
The total supply is 1 billion. The circuit supply is about 330 million.
So they could try that trick again.
They
right?
could, but every time it went bankrupt, the price would drop. So we would have actually a perfect opportunity to short it every time.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
each time they come across the situation, you've identified the coin is taking a significant
It
hit.
has,
Because
because
they know they have to raise money and therefore they're gonna dilute the heck out of the
yes,
currency.
because investors get
Got
more
it.
wary,
Yeah.
and they
Cool.
can't afford to decrease that APY and Anchor because if they do, people leave, and if people leave, the value of that coin goes down all else equal.
Now, we've never shorted a coin in a portfolio, and this may seem scripted, but it's not. I'm learning it just as you are, which I trust these two
Yep.
completely, which is why I'm loving this conversation. How the heck are you guys proposing we're gonna short this? Like, everyone knows how to buy crypto. What are
Sure.
you trying to talk, what are you
First step.
talking about?
Sure. So on these different platforms, a way to do it is through staking, right?
Yep.
And Rishi knows more about that because
Sure.
I'm a senior and you're a junior.
Right.
Use that
This
one.
is our very
No.
first time in a crypto, so we got a senior
I'm
who's
sorry.
done a crypto
I-
before
yeah.
with a mentor student. This is
That's
good.
amazing.
Yeah,
You're doing
so
great.
Margaret, this is her first time pitching a crypto to us, and
Okay.
looking at one. Yep,
So-
and it's kind of the way we do things at AIM. They've built up a mentor model where we have the seniors kind of bring the juniors along, then the juniors become the pros. So Margaret's gonna be our pro next year.
Definitely. So
Yep.
sorry to hand this off to Rishi, but it's the like staking.
So let's think about this, right? The basic mechanism for a short is you borrow a security, you sell it, you buy it back at a lower price, and you give it back. So we can do that for sure. There's definitely protocols on Terra where you can borrow coins. There's the new Mars protocol, which is exactly that,
So
where
aren't I gonna have to pay someone 20% while I wait and hope this
Nope.
thesis plays
maybe
out?
around 5.8%, and I found that a couple days ago.
For the shorts.
Yeah, for
That's pretty cool. So
First
someone is willing to take 5.8% even though they could get 20 if they use
Correct.
Anchor.
yeah,
So
correct.
you've identified, I'm an arbitrageur by trade, I can't help myself. You've identified an arbitrage situation for me, which I like very much.
Correct.
All right, so why wouldn't I then, now that I know this, short, why don't we do this? Why wouldn't I short it on your exchange and pay out 5.8 and put it into Anchor at 20? And if the coin collapses, I still made my 16%
I have
in
a better
between.
proposal for you.
Okay,
So there's a protocol called the white whale protocol,
okay,
and this is with any algorithm stable coin, there's an arbitrage opportunity
yeah,
tied with it. This white whale protocol automates that process for you. And at the top, of it, once
Nice.
you deposit it in,
so
they
someone's thought
give
of
you Anchor
this.
returns too. So you'd be
And then
popping up
there's,
both
and then
ends.
there's the way I'm looking at the world, which is how I used to run my firm, there's no risk, meaning the coin collapses, I still
Correct.
make my money until
'Cause
that
it's so
happens.
arbitrary, you're actually making money.
And I don't actually have a position, I'm net neutral on the position.
But there is risk because,
Why?
well, the regulators, there's a regulatory risk
Well,
potential.
No,
for a
but here's the
DeFi
beautiful
platform
thing,
to
if
be
I'm
blown
long
up.
and short the same coin, and the regulators take out the coin, all I've done is I've made my money and then it's gone. That's how I used to do things in my own firm.
Is there not potential counterparty risk with this? Returning
Sure,
back to the world of
possibly, I guess.
2006,
But it
2007.
would take a while. They can raise 600 million coins in Luna and fund it. It would take a while for us.
How long until, let's say they went to the full billion coins, how long until they, on their current burn rate, I mean, new accelerated burn rate, how long till this thing burns itself out? If they
So
were able to keep raising, and I don't think they will, but what's the maximum lifespan of this coin in your opinions?
years, a few years at least,
Yeah, but what are we talking, 3, 10, 15?
closer to 3. I haven't calculated
Okay.
the exact burn rate.
No, that's
um,
fine.
Just because it depends on how much they can raise each round. And that
I like
is the
this white
precedent.
wallet idea, we need to follow up on this. Now you see where we're headed?
I do.
This is
I like
way
this.
outside of like where schools
I
are, I
know.
assure you.
Completely.
Like this is 3 levels
I'm gonna take
beyond
them
what I
all
see.
back
in
and put
Mars.
them in my finance.
There you go. Alex would love them.
I know.
Oh, you want to talk about their ESG stuff? You see, they're going
Yeah,
to
I
talk to
know.
you this
Okay.
afternoon.
Yep, yep.
Flip the page. They tried to at
Okay,
least
perfect.
quantify some of the stuff they're probably going to pitch you. You guys find anything out in ESG in this coin? Is it good, bad, anything interesting, or is it just kind of plain Jane?
It's a standard for security. There hasn't been many main hacks that use the same kind of encryption as Bitcoin and for things like that. And
How about
their
governance?
governance, well, since it's designated proof of stake, it's just my opinion too that there can be a lot of like they call it there can be cartels that come together on these different proposals. That's how they've gotten the 20% on.
So for the
Anchor.
audience's edification, again, we might not know everything
Yeah,
there is to
sorry.
know about coins. What is, like, how do these coins, they vote sometimes
Right.
to upgrade the coin. How does voting work in this coin?
So it's since it's delegated proof of stake, there's about 130 or there are 130 validators, and you can stake your
Back off another level.
validators.
Validators. My grandma, my mom is here right now, and she needs
Absolutely.
like, what? How does this thing upgrade itself? People vote,
Right, people vote. They stake their Luna coin,
and how do they get a vote?
but through their Luna governance.
So they own the currency,
Mhm.
and the more of them they own, the more votes they get.
They
They
look at
stake
their
it,
stock.
Yeah. Nope, I know. I just wanted to back off. Now you can go deeper. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Just want to bring everybody up to the same page.
Exactly. So then you take your tokens and you stake them to one of these validators, and that's determined on basically you can look at the validators different. It's like their social. They have a social responsibility thing they call it, and based on how they.
So what would
Their
happen if
transaction
someone
fees and
took
things like
over
that.
65 of the validators? Would they control the vote?
They would.
They would, yes.
Well,
So that's one of the potential weaknesses.
if you look at page 8, we have listed the top 20 validators, and we have the voting power there as well.
Okay.
So we found that top 20 reflect about 46%, 48% of the voting power total.
Okay.
So there is already this kind of problem arising where the top 20 kind of own the whole
The largest.
governance of this.
Gotcha. So this is the equivalent of, large shareholders, if they colluded, in this case, collusion is not illegal in this market, they can control the future. of
What do the
coin.
founders own of that percent?
So this is a weird one. They don't disclose that, but we do know that when the ICO, they own 56% of all the insider ownership combined.
ICO is like an IPO,
Yep.
initial coin offering. ICO.
Obviously, it's gone down since then just because they've a lot more investors and more operability.
But you don't know what.
We don't know what they own exactly now.
Interesting.
So you have a bunch of data on the front page with some names that I recognize, some peer group. I mean, you attempted a valuation here. What'd you get?
So we got downside about 49% from the $96.26 that we had from last night.
How'd you come up with that?
Sure, we did a 40, 25, 25, 10 weighting on 4 different valuation metrics.
Okay.
The 40% was a DCF.
Wait, you can DC up coins.
Yes, you can.
Somebody else does that. I like it.
We, so what we did is,
That's one of the things we do at Marquette. I like to highlight it. Right? Harvard said you can't do this. NYU said you can't do this.
Why don't hire
Sure.
people
Yep.
from Harvard?
we're going to walk you through how.
The real
some of the
basics,
things-
right? Why not? Have some fun with it.
Sure. So we were able to find the transaction fees that we're getting on this platform for the last 3 months. And we really get the growth rate from there, and we extrapolated that over 5 years, annualizing it, and we got to a long-term growth, tapering growth rate of 6.89%. From there, it was about getting a whack. So we got a beta
Weighted average cost of capital.
So
That's how we
yeah.
do things in the
discount
stock
rate would be a better
market.
word to
Yep.
say. So we used the CMC 2000. We used Bitcoin.
Which is an index that
Yep.
has a whole bunch of coins.
Correct.
Yep.
We used Bitcoin, we used the S&P 500, and we had reasoning for those 3. So the CMC 2000 gave us a really low beta. It was about 0.5. We just didn't think that was appropriate since
Yep.
the crypto has been extremely volatile. It has a 52-week low of $4.09.
Yep.
So that doesn't make sense to us. So we covered to Bitcoin, and that was because, big question is like, is it better to own Bitcoin because it is the overall market, right? If
Yep.
Bitcoin's moving up, most coins move up, and vice versa.
Sure. So what beta did it produce relative to Bitcoin?
It got about a 1.2,
Okay, good.
and then
So
we
it's
did the
more
S&P
volatile.
as well.
I want to know that.
I'm not doing this for you.
I'm teasing you. I'm just,
And
Joe and I have a very good relationship. So
No, we don't.
just so you know, I tease him. But,
Yeah.
okay, so Bitcoin, which is like around 900 million, huge market.
Yep.
You use that one, huh?
Yep.
And I see you used Ethereum too, which isn't Ethereum proof of work?
it is, but for some of the metrics we assumed that they would be proof of stake, because
Okay.
like the stock market, these coins are forward-looking, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be able to do 100,000 transactions per second theoretically once they turn proof of stake. So we kind of used that figure for a
Yeah, what metrics
valuation.
did you comp based on?
Sure. So one was price over potential transaction per second, and it kind of takes to
The
the
flow of the
efficiency.
pipe.
Yep. And we did price to DApp because DApp's
Number of
encourage-
dApps or what?
Number of DApps, correct.
Okay,
And that because that encourages the
so the number of
adoption.
applications built
Yeah.
with using this platform.
And then our last one was price to total value locked, which is the number of the amount of coins staked, the value staked on these blockchains.
Gotcha.
And that's
That's
kind of-
locked down and
Yep.
therefore it can't really trade hands.
Yep.
Got it.
The only one that gave us upside was price to total value locked, but let me explain why I included it.
Yeah.
57% as of yesterday night comes from Anchor of that figure,
Of course, everyone
And
wants their
3%.
20%. I get this.
And
It's a
3% comes
podcast
from
of
Mirror,
lots.
Yeah.
which has SEC subpoena.
Yeah.
So those two, that's 60% is total value locked.
SEC subpoena, what are you talking about? I
The
don't like
Mirror
those words
protocol.
in my coin. What's that?
Well, we don't like the coin either, so that's.
Yeah.
No, no, what's happening though?
What about
So the
subpoena?
Mirror protocol, which allows you to trade synthetic assets like
Yep.
stocks, has been really popular, but
Yeah.
it has been hit with an SEC subpoena
For what?
for having synthetic stocks, synthetic assets.
Oh, and that's associated
That's
with
a
this
no-no.
coin.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah, that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
So
Are
that,
the founders involved in that or is that an independent?
the founder tried to reject the subpoena.
Oh, no.
What?
He
Oh,
tried
he
to
rejected
reject.
the subpoena, he's
How
involved.
do you reject a
So
subpoena?
he just said, "Oh, we're not going to listen to subpoena." Essentially.
We're in South Korea, we don't need to listen to you. That's, you know, these coins do that sometimes.
So 60% of the total value loss is actually effectively junk, and if we took that out, we would actually get downside. Like
Got it. So
20%.
your only metric that said it's worth more is, you're arguing is
is actually junk. It's
adjusted
actually wrong.
properly means
Yeah.
it's worth less.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And if you try to argue the IP valuation method, that'd be wrong too, because it's only IP if it's worth anything. If it's losing $5.5 million a day with no solution.
Well, the IP is the 10,000 transactions per second, but as you started out, everybody's starting to move into the hundreds of thousands,
Correct.
if not towards a million, which means their technology is quickly becoming
Correct.
obsolete.
Yeah.
Where it once was a market leader.
Correct.
Do they have any designs to upgrade their speed or their protocol?
Not that I've read.
Okay.
It's not really a big thing on mind right now.
So where'd the business model slip? I mean, because the stable coin, there's no issue with that. It's with the centralized apps.
And they still are backed by all these Bitcoins, so
Yeah.
there is some asset. We'll get to that, get to
Yep.
Dave's questions. Yep.
Yes and no. I'll let Margaret take this first. I'll follow up.
Well, I would say, right, so the conceptual, like
Yeah.
behind the ecosystem to begin with, they didn't have reserves. And so when they went through these decentralized apps, like you were saying, and so through the delegated proof of stake, they can vote on if it's 20% on their protocol. So through that process, then they've been able to, they got themselves into trouble there, and then they've had to get the reserves.
You hit a magic word there, reserves, which is what Gensler and the SEC are all concerned about with stable coins. Do they have reserves behind the stable coins?
Of the
100%?
the cryptocurrency. They don't have US dollar or euro or things like that too.
But they do have Bitcoins, and
And
we'll
this-
get to that in just a
Yeah.
second, because we have a question from the audience. Who are you, young man? Introduce yourself.
Oh, geez.
For our first-
Hi, my name's Alex Salish, Junior. My question was regarding the your peer comps.
Yep.
Some of them are proof of work, some of them are proof of stake, and then obviously Terra's delegated proof of stake. How, like, you kind of briefly kind of touched upon how you made like some of the assumptions to
Yep.
kind of streamline them all into a proof of stake. So I was just curious if you could
So
run over that.
let's use Ethereum, right? They're proof of work right now, but they will be proof of stake one day. And they do have figures on what their system will look like when it does become that. So right now, they can do about 15 transactions a second on using proof of work. But if they get to proof of stake, theoretically, they stated they can do 100,000. Same with Cardano, once they kind of upgrade the system, they can do 1 million. So I've said 2 million even. So we were able to kind of, just researching numbers, get some of the figures that.
So these are
make
coins
sense.
that are on their way to
They're on
becoming
the
competitors.
transitionary-
And
Yeah.
that's like the whole point, right? This is a forward-looking market.
Okay.
It's kind of like a peg ratio, right? Where you're looking forward rather than backward. So that's kind of how I went about looking at this kind of stuff. Every crypto is different, and you kind of have to work what you have.
Perfect. Yeah,
To
that
get
makes
back to
sense.
Dave's question, something I've actually been wanting to know for a while, and I've been waiting to today to ask. I know they bought all these Bitcoins with their money.
Mhm.
How much is one coin backed? What's the value of a coin in terms of the Bitcoin, whether it's in dollars or Bitcoin? Is it significant or not, right? So they have these reserves, they've got 300 million of these out there. How many Bitcoin are we talking about? Like, what's the dollar value of a coin backed by Bitcoin right now?
It's $1.7 billion in Bitcoin is what they have right now.
Okay, so $6.
Yeah.
Got it.
And they have 200 million Avalanche. So,
Ish.
yeah.
I'm not a Midwest girl that can do better math than that, but I'll
I'm calculating it.
Yeah.
So, interesting. I'm interested in how is that model sustainable with 13% in, 20% out?
That's what they're telling us.
Yeah,
I
it's
get
not
it. They've got to keep doing raising. The
Right.
good news is they have 700 million more coins to sell. The bad news is
Who's gonna
eventually
give them money?
well, they have gotten this twice.
And we're not pioneering this either. The market has stated that this is a Ponzi scheme.
Yep.
So it's not like we were ahead of the curve or anything. This is out there. It's just that these
It's a musical
Who
chair
gave
game,
them
right?
money? That's the stuff in the short.
Galaxy Digital's one, Terra Capital's giving them money. Jump Crypto has also. A lot of these
Those
crypto
will be good business partners for you in the future. They might not be around.
No, I was
Yeah.
thinking of shorting your stock.
There
you
I
go.
was like,
these crypto VCs are the main
Yeah.
investors, right?
Who are you, young man?
I'm Joanne, so I'm a junior in the AIM program. My question, did they do this model from the beginning or did they adopt this like partway through?
So Anchor came out in late 2020 or 2021. So it's fairly new, but that's the unsustainability aspect of it.
Did they always do the 20%?
Yeah, it was.
How was the
20%.
coin doing before Anchor came out? Was it worth $100 at some point, or was it,
Well,
like, what was it doing
so it
previous to
came,
Anchor's time?
it came out at 80, kind of tanked. It wasn't doing too well. It wasn't
Okay.
kind of underperforming. But
Yep.
then Anchor came up and
And then it just took off.
it took
So it
off.
crashed all the way to $4 before Anchor?
$4.09. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So Anchor's really what's scrubbed like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the 20% returns of tourism. Got it.
That assumes markets are efficient. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a beta of 1.2, you said here. Maybe it just moved because Bitcoin moved during that period of time as
Right.
well.
Did Bitcoin run from
So
2018?
2018 to.
Good
No,
question.
2020 is when Anchor, late 2020 is when Anchor came out.
Sure.
25 fold?
Oh, not 25.
Yeah, so it's
No,
like,
no,
hey.
no, no,
Yeah.
but
Bitcoin's up, well, right now it's down. but
Yeah.
It hit its high last, I think, June.
We did a 1 year
Yeah.
correlation
Yeah,
on
that's
price of
what I was
Bitcoin
thinking.
versus this one. It was about 0.3. It's
Yeah,
like-
that would
Oh,
make
okay.
more sense. Yeah, yeah.
The 5.8% did you say on to cost to short?
It's a cost to state.
So are you, young man?
Yeah.
Professor Walker. He's a longtime friend.
I'm just wondering that how is that cost relative to other cryptos or tokens?
Right.
That you're doing? It seems to me it's like anything, the stock that gets overshorted, it
Right,
gets very, very expensive to short.
right.
And ultimately you have kind of a come to termination of that.
Right. I didn't look into that too much, but I have the same metric for Ethereum above, and it's 4.39%, so it's a little higher than Ethereum, let's say.
Okay. What I understood.
Yeah.
Which makes sense for the listing, right?
Yeah.
But you said, what did you say was June 15th, they're running out of reserves?
That's
did you
when
say?
Anchor were on reserves. So on page,
Sorry.
so on page 5, I have the reserve inflation.
So what happens, what do you think's gonna happen then?
So when this happened in January, they ran down $26 million in reserves, and then they put $5 million into the bank to fund it. So the same thing will probably happen again. And Do Kwon said he would do that too.
Yeah, so that's what you're gonna do,
Yeah.
is short it and then like.
But every time it
cash
happens,
out,
it's
right?
shorts, right?
Yeah.
It just tanks. You just keep doing this over and over again until they can't do it.
How much are you gonna put in?
As much as you can.
Alright.
Anything
I
else?
like it.
Is this validator or like collusion risk, is that like kind of specific to this coin or is that more like industry-wide?
Who are
What
you?
was, sorry.
Is that risk of like
What's your
collusion with the insider? Oh, I'm Jake Bernard, I'm a junior too.
You're junior? Okay. Didn't know
So
you.
is this collusion or with the validators of like insider holdings, is that kind of specific to the coin or is that more like industry?
It's like with the consensus mechanism of the delegated proof of stake, it's just kind of with the territory. And a lot compared to peers, like the 130 validators is a really low number. So that's kind of specific to this coin.
Yeah, Ethereum has thousands of validators. This one has
It's about
130.
Cosmos, right? I've heard that thrown out as a competitor years ago. How many validators do they have?
I don't know about
Yes.
that one. I can get
Okay.
back to you on that.
Okay. Who are you, young lady?
Hi, I'm Grace Schwartz. I'm also a junior. And we're just kind of there's a little confusion about how you guys are, or like how we're planning on staking this. Like, are there people do it? You said that there are people staking it now. Could you just like explain for like people that don't know?
Sure. So if
Dumb
you,
it down a little bit more.
so one of the applications on Terra is the Terra Station Wallet, and here's where you stake your coins, other than the other platforms. So if you go to this wallet, they'll give you the list of 130 validators. They'll give you the fees that they charge you. They're kind of prospectus, if you will, and you can choose which one to stake with. So we could choose one with the lowest fees or the highest voting power, anything you want really. So that's kind of how that would work.
So
Is there a second part to
the
that?
crypto club, I had this crazy, fear-infused moment where we all kind of realized, wait a minute, we should dawn on us earlier, staking is actually shorting. If you think things through, right, you're gonna take someone who wants to own it for a while, they're not gonna be able to do anything with it, they're gonna hand you their crypto, and in return, you're gonna give them a bit of interest on their money. That's exactly what happens in a stock, with the promise to repay it when they need it back. And of course, in this case, you can even not do that. You can say, it's mine until some event happens.
Well, you have to put in 100% of to buy it first, but you could.
You don't though, if you think about it, Professor Walker, if you stake, right? Let's say you're the staker and I'm the one that you're staking it to. I've effectively shorted, right? You give me your crypto, I hand you back interest.
Yeah.
And I can do whatever I want with that unbeknownst to you. I could go sell it in this price. And now I have to go return it to you at some point. And so that allows for the idea that one could theoretically short these, right? No one's talking about that, but that's kind of a new idea. And so what I'm hearing from Rishi is there's already an app called White Whale that I want to learn more about that's going to let us do that exact arbitrage that I'm super interested in.
But
That's
that's my
pretty cool.
question. You have to own the token.
Why do I have to own the token?
Don't you have to
No, I
own it
don't.
to stake it?
To stake the token, I do, but not to pay you the in. Think of the reverse of the situation. You have to own the token to give it to me to get your 20%.
Staker, staking.
I don't have to own the token to accept that from you.
Okay, right.
So that makes it really interesting, right? What's your name, young man?
So you kind of asked the question I was, and you answered it well, so thank you.
No problem.
Because the staker still benefits if
I mean,
the
no
price
one
goes up in
that
the
I
future,
know of,
the
I've not
stakee is
seen
the one
this discussed even on the
loss.
cutting edge
Right,
business
yeah.
points, but it is something that we've been pondering about for the last month here. It's like, this is actually allowing us to short things in some ways, and no one's really considered that yet. Which now you're near and dear to my heart because now I can arbitrage markets.
Well, especially if there's an automated program that can just.
Yep, super cool.
I got it.
Love that.
It's
Yep.
actually gonna text it to Angie about 5 seconds.
Start looking into
My
this.
guy, go get,
Oh,
go
yeah.
get this.
Regulators.
Nice. Well done, you guys. Well done.
Yeah, I thought you were very nicely done.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
Zero coaching, I promise. This is, I love these two to death. They're great. Jess?
Oh, I have no question.
So this is Jess Harris. I was actually hoping you two
Oh,
would
yeah,
connect
you're-
with some
you're-
of them. She's our coordinator, soon to be the assistant director of the program, and she's in charge of our DEI and getting them into business. She's grown our, when this program started, as you can imagine,
Like,
30 guys. We're now up to how many in the incoming class?
The incoming class, we have 13 females
Out of-
coming in.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's mostly her efforts, so she's been doubling down. They have women in business meetings, labor meetings.
Women in investments.
Women in investments.
Near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. I'm gonna end the stream. Is
Sounds
everyone
good.
good?
Yeah.
Good job?
Great job, guys.